We are live, and I'm going to let people start to trickle in to this here live Substack. I'm going to put myself on Do Not Disturb. But also, this recording will be pushed out later for everyone as per usual. So, thank you so much for those who are able to join tonight and for those who will be watching later. I am joined by Shawn Harris out of Georgia-14, Marjorie Taylor Greene's old district since she decided to quit. And we're going to be talking to him in just a second. But just a reminder to everybody that this is the Candidates of Our Dreams series. We are talking to candidates using a list of 9 hopes and wishes from the progressive platform. We're also going to let our candidate talk about issues that are specific to Georgia 14 because you're there to represent your district. And there are unique challenges for every congressional district across our great land. And then we are also going to get into the origin story. Why is Shawn running? Why is he doing all of this? It's not like running for office is easy or glamorous, despite what people might tell you. And then, as I keep telling everybody, there's homework and work attached to this interview. You are here. If you are like, hey, I've got a safely progressive person in my district, I'm good. Great. You have homework to do because there are other candidates who need the legwork. They need the phone banking, the volunteerism, the donations, sharing their stuff on social media, whatever. So we'll get into plugs and all that in just a second. But enough about that. Shawn, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people who are listening now and later? Include where you're from exactly and your election dates as well, so that everyone's clear about if you're in a primary situation or general or whatnot.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thanks, Kate, for inviting me to your show. As you already said, my name is Shawn Harris. Some people call me Brigadier General Harris, retired, all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, I retired at the military after 40 years, came back to my home state of the great state of Georgia. My wife, Carla, she's a physician. We bought a farm here in Northwest Georgia, Rockmart, Georgia, a little small town. And if you think about it like this, from my house to Marjorie's house is less than 20 miles. So Marjorie and I kind of moved around in the same circles. Not with the same people, but same circles. I ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene last time. Obviously, we didn't win, but what I want your audience to know, 135,000 people actually voted for me. That was the most votes any Democrat has ever received here in CD 14. That is significant. But the other piece that's significant is Democrats, independents, and yes, Republicans crossed over and voted for me. That piece right there is the most significant piece. In order to win in this district, you have to be able to build a coalition of everybody in the district to pull it off. And now, because like you mentioned, Marjorie Taylor Greene quit on us. We don't have anybody in DC watching us or looking out for us. Right now, I'm in what they call a jungle primary. So I went from running against Marjorie Taylor Greene to running against 16 other Republicans right now.
Mhm.
And I'm not scared at all, and I don't want anybody in your audience to be scared because guess what? This is the greatest opportunity for us to win this election because I am the only Democrat, or let me ask, we can have further questions. I am the only real Democrat in this race because on the ballot, you'll see where we have an independent that got confused and said he wanted to be a Democrat. And then we actually have a plant that's a Republican that has endorsed Bobby Carter and trying to act like a Democrat. So I'll kind of stop there because I am excited to tell your audience how we can win this and then what I'm going to do when I get to Congress because I got a question yesterday on a conservative radio station. I won't say what it was, but they wanted to ask me a simple question. Am I like AOC or am I like Fetterman? And I told them neither.
Mm.
I'm Shawn Harris. I'm a leader. I've been tested, and I'm going to represent all the people here in Northwest Georgia.
I love it. Georgia itself is a very purple state, and it sounds like your congressional district is that in a microcosm. Like you can't just ignore an entire block or you won't win.
Correct.
That's just the way it is. And I've also, you're not the first candidate I've talked to who's like, you know, nobody likes the incumbent, or a lot of people don't like the incumbent, but no candidate has been willing to ride the purple, as it were, or to really get in the messy middle of things. And that doesn't mean, when people talk about being in the middle or moderate, they immediately recoil and think it means like not progressive, not whatever. And it doesn't have to mean that. What it does mean is that you need to be able to effectively communicate to those who are not going to spend all day long, like I do right now, reading political headlines and economics newspapers and like what, like people are generally not going to do that. And so they need you to be able to talk to them where they are and make it clear to them that on the issues, which the data shows this on the issues, most independents and moderates lean left a
Mhm,
little.
mhm.
Once you get down to brass tacks of policy, they're like, I'm cool with that. They mostly just want to know how you're going to pay for it. And that's, and people, I think a lot of liberals and leftists will scoff and be like, who cares? It doesn't matter. And it's like, it does matter.
Yeah.
Like, and if we would just talk about that ROI and how much money you actually save, and then all the tax revenue we're not bringing in from some basics. And like, anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I appreciate so much that you're already looking at it like I have a whole district to represent, and that district is made up of a lot of people. And bravo for that stance.
What I would tell you, that's the real Shawn Harris, 100%. That's who I was when I was in the military. I spent those 40 years. I asked nobody, nobody asked me, but I asked nobody running around in Afghanistan in places I can't even talk about, were you a Democrat, independent, or Republican?
Right.
I was willing to put my life on the line for Americans, period. So to come back here to this district, especially after Marjorie only represented MAGA. So she even left out common sense Republicans and everybody else. So in our district, people are hungry for somebody to talk to them about kitchen table issues, talk to them about our healthcare issues, and talk to them and speak the real language that says, we have hospitals, but we don't actually have the doctors, the nurses to be in the hospital. So those are the kitchen table issues that people wanna hear about and wanna know how you're gonna help. And then the last piece, here in our district, because it's very rural, we do have some larger cities, but it's very rural. Most people in 2 and 3 jobs to try to make ends meet, and they still don't make 'em meet. But guess what? That's why on it's incredible right now, the amount of people that are getting behind our campaign across the board, because the 16 Republicans or 17 Republicans that I'm running against, every last one of those guys are fighting to get an endorsement from Trump. And what I say to that is this: when they saying they going to Washington, D.C. to help Trump, what they saying to the people here in Northwest Georgia is, "You don't matter. You're not even in the car," whatever. What Shawn Harris has said publicly, and I'll say it on your show, I am a Democrat. What I was told, a Democrat tent is supposed to be very, very big, period. But Shawn Harris has said, "I'm a Democrat, but I'm not married to a party." And what I mean by that, I gotta do what's best for the people here in Northwest Georgia, and Northwest Georgia is not New York City, and it's not Atlanta. I
Right.
mean, at the end of the day, right here where I live in Rockmart, Georgia, the largest store that we have is called Walmart, period.
Right. And that's the reality. And so, it's when at the beginning of last year, 2025, I keep forgetting that the year has turned over. I remember when, a lot of corporate boycotts were coming out, which I support, by the
Mhm.
way, but always with the understanding that there are places where you cannot ask them to boycott because you're asking them to boycott their grocery store, their one grocery store. And so there is a level of like, sure, we can seek to diversify that business base or whatever. In the meantime, like this is what we've got. And to be unrealistic about that is to will alienate people, will alienate your voters in your district.
Well, I tell you, Kate, I'm glad you brought that up because it came up during my last election. I was on the call with Democrats all over the country talking this the issue, and I said on that call, I said, "Guys, I need to be tell you the truth. In most of our towns is Walmart, and because agriculture is the number one industry in our district, it's Tractor Supply. So if we're gonna boycott these 2 places, then how do we eat, and then how do we actually run our farms?" And I said, "We gotta come up with a better way of doing this because We can't cut our noses off to spite everything, and we don't have that many choices out here in a rural community.
No. And that's yeah, again, like, sometimes reality comes crashing in, and I've always told people, I'm like, "Boycotts are a privilege." Like, that is something that privileged people can do. I am privileged, I do them. I understand that, that is a decision that I have to make on a personal level about what I am and am not willing to do,
Mhm.
and I'm certainly not gonna go pontificate to somebody else about what they should be doing. Like you said, when we're talking about the ability to get food and work, like, that's just, that's unreasonable. Okay, so we've gotten into this a little bit, but what was the moment that you decided to run for CD14? Why were you like, Georgia needs me? And this is not your first race. You ran against her in 2024. So
You want me to tell
why?
you?
Yes, I want to know the origin story.
I will tell you. It happened right outside this house. I'm in my basement. It happened right outside this house. We were putting up fence. Some veterans came over to help me out, and as we were putting up those fence, they said, "Sir, you still got too much fire in your belly. You got too much leadership. We think you should run for Congress." And I said, "Guys, if I wanted to live in DC, I woulda did like everybody else and bought a beautiful house in Virginia and made a whole bunch of money." But I and then they said, "Hey, when you run against Marjorie as a Republican, we'll get in behind you." And I had to tell the guys, first time in my life that I actually said, because in the military, we don't talk politics.
Mm.
I told them guys, I'm not a Republican. I'm a Democrat. And if I said I was a Republican, my mother would get out of her grave and slap me. So thinking that would make them leave me alone, guess what they said? That's fine. We'll still support you. And they still supported me today, and that's why we have more and more Republicans coming our way because they actually said, "We're looking for a common sense leader that's gonna look out for everybody," the same thing I did in the military. So that's the why. The crazy part about that entire why is when I actually called the Democratic Party, I had to call several times to make them answer the phone.
Mhm.
But they finally did, and now we're doing it. So I'm a little bit different on how I got here. I'm not 100% sure if those guys wouldn't have asked that question out in my pasture where the cows at, would I be on your show today, or would I just been another person in the district saying, "Marjorie Taylor Greene is crazy, you can't do anything." No, it pushed me to get into the chair, and now since I'm in the chair, we're going to win it, and we're gonna win it outright and make sure that we go to Washington, D.C. and fight for everybody here in the district, and at the same time, help across the board when it comes to things that make sense for the American people.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service, Brigadier General Harris. Second, uh, I am very grateful for this to the service of the veterans that you were just talking about, not only for their literal service, but for their like insight into what you could be doing for your community. You're
Mhm.
clearly a well-respected leader in your district, in your community, and that's like how it should be, right? This is like the politics that we all imagine in our heads when we're learning the schoolhouse rock songs and like
Right.
believing in our democracy and our republic is like it's these people who are going to Congress, right? And then we become adults and we get disenchanted and jaded about it. And what you're proving is that that's actually real. It's not a fairy tale. It does take a lot of work. Like you said, you ran already. Did you run against her just in 2024 or
I went against the in 2024, Marcus, another veteran, ran before, and I always give Marcus the credit because Marcus opened the door for me. The other piece is when I actually those guys what I didn't tell you, when those guys asked me to run, I actually got in touch with Marcus and we went and had coffee. I went to Marcus saying, "Marcus, I would throw my generals behind you to help the board." And that's when Marcus told me that he was not gonna run again. Marcus said, "You need to run, and these are the people you call in the Democratic Party to get it done." So that's the whole story. So we are all working together. Mark works with me on this campaign to win this thing.
I loved okay, there's so many things that I love, and I wanna get to the next part of this interview and not take up too much of your time, but I'm also like, I I wanna double click on what I just heard, which is that you weren't like, "Oh, well, I have to do it my way," and, and this person you went, "Here's someone who's already blazed some of the trail,
Mhm.
and let me not reinvent the wheel. Let me go down that trail a little bit and figure out how to plug in." And he's like, "Tag out. you keep going, I'm gonna be right behind, you know, like that again, these are the politics that we dream of as kids and as like, you know, wide-eyed adolescents, and then we think that it's not real by the time we become jaded grown-ups, and, it's just making my heart so happy because I am an idealist. I know sometimes I sound very cranky, in some of my content, but I am an idealist. I believe in this, which is why I'm doing it, but, it's so amazing to hear, especially in Marjorie Taylor Greene's district of all things,
Y
like, which we're gonna
you
start
know,
calling it that.
I
Uh,
would tell you, I think one of the coolest things is, right now, early voting starts on the 16th of February, all that kinda
okay.
stuff, and we're going everywhere. I can't be everywhere.
Right,
We pick up the phone and call Marcus, say, "Hey, Marcus, man, can you represent me in Rome, Georgia today?" That is so powerful
yeah,
that when Marcus walks in the room, 100% of the people know who Marcus is.
right,
Yes, so that means Marcus, he's not talking what he used to talk. He's using my talking points and saying, for us to win this, Shawn needs 4 and 5 more Marcuses so that he could be everywhere in this district. Because from one end to the other is 157 miles one way. And you can't do it in a day.
no.
So that means that's how we building this team to say, how can Shawn be in West Cobb, right outside of Atlanta, and then be up in Dade County, up on around Lookout Mountain, all in the same day? Is because I got Marcus and plenty others that can help represent me, and we all working together to make it happen.
I love it. I feel so good about your race right now. Amazing. Okay, we're gonna at the end of this interview, we're gonna plug all the logistics of the race,
Yeah,
and make sure that everyone knows how to also plug in to your coalition here. I want to get to the part of these interviews where we talk about the candidate of our dreams checklist.
mhm,
And as I remind everybody every single time, this is not a purity test. Most of these are conceptual ideas. Some are a little more specific than others, but they're mostly conceptual ideas or parts of larger concepts that I, zero in on. There's a lot of different ways to tackle them. What
yep,
we're looking for the candidates of our dreams is a commitment to chase down these ideals because they are ideals, and it sounds like we've got a winner here who knows how to coalition, dream build, and all that kind of stuff. So, Shawn, do you prefer that we go one by one, or do you want me to read them all and then you just kind of grab things from there? What
no,
is
no,
your
just go
preference?
one by one.
All
If
right.
that we'll power through them so that we can get it done, but yeah, just go one by one.
Perfect. All right. So one takes $0 in corporate campaign money. I'm interested on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Nobody can buy Shawn Harris, period. I get the question all the time, "Am I taking APAC money?" The answer to that is no. Um, for your audience to know, um, prior to me being the candidate, my last assignment, I was a senior defense official in Israel. So if they Google Joe Biden stepping off the plane when he flew to Israel, that beautiful black man that salutes him, that's me. That is me. So I have that background to understand how money can influence different things.
Right.
I promised myself when I got in there, I promised my wife Carla that if I got into politics, nobody would be able to buy me. And I'm proud to say the average donation that comes to me is $27.75.
Amazing.
That is priceless to me because at the end of the day, like I said, I work for everyday hardworking people right here in the district. And in Northwest Georgia, we're not the richest part of Georgia, but we are the prettiest part of Georgia.
Love that. Amazing. Number two, term limits themselves and advances term limit legislation.
Yes, the answer to that is yes. I've already signed the pledge, but before I could sign that pledge, like I said, I spent 40 years in the military.
Mhm.
I this is the first address that I've ever tried to remember. Period. My wife has always ran the show, and Carla told me, "If you get into this politics, you're not gonna be going to Washington, DC for the next 20 years." So, I signed a term limit before I ever got out here. I can tell your audience point blank, good Lord blessing, I'm going to Washington, DC for 3 terms. That's the term limit for the House. After that, I'm stepping out and letting a new leader come to the table, and that's what I think it's all about. Personally, I think I think we should when you get to a certain age, go home. I think you should move to a different we do something in the military where they call me a gray beard. A gray beard is somebody who's used to be in the game, but is not in the game anymore, but understand the game that can advise the new person coming in. Not tell you what to do, but if you need to ask somebody some hard questions, I can at least give you some advice. And I think that's what we should have in is specifically in the Democratic Party, some gray beards that help us as we come forward because when you go to DC, I don't care who they are, you don't know the job until you actually get there.
Right.
Period. You think you know it, and as a senior military person, I used to change jobs basically every 2 to 3 years. You get there thinking you know what's going on, it's not until you sit behind a desk and
Mm,
realize, "Okay, things are going good," or "Things are going real bad," and now you own it. And that's how I'm looking at it when I get to the DC. I have a plan. I think I know what to do. We're gonna bring an incredible team with us, but we also gonna have to make sure that we create some mentors that I can say, "Hey, sir. Hey, ma'am, you know, y'all saw this back in the early 2000s. What are your
right,
thoughts?"
right. I love first of all, again, I'm just loving the energy. I was speaking to a candidate yesterday who was talking about building the bench, and you're already looking that far down. You're like, "Who's the heir?" Right? That I will be ready to turn things over, and I will be available. It's not and I think the only way you can do that is to have the stance that you have, which is I'm not gonna burn myself out there so that
No.
when I'm done, I'm like, "I hate this, goodbye, like, I'm out, and I don't wanna hear from anybody ever again about it." So, I think that it's very, I think it's just very, like, reasonable for you to, like, take that stance and also, like, admirable that you're really thinking, like, "What's best for this congressional district?" and not what's best for me, right? Like, what gives me the party time the longest or whatever. It's amazing.
I'm a firm believer that if you get into politics I think some people done got into politics because they wanna be a celebrity,
Right.
okay? If that's your lane, go out to California and do like everybody
To
else
be a
and try to
celebrity.
get there.
Right.
But if you go into Congress, if you go into DC, you got to be willing to roll your sleeves up and put in the work. And putting in the work is actually writing bills, reading doggone bills, and it's actually hard work. It's nothing sexy about it. Nothing. Because guess what? On Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, you're going to jump on a plane, fly to Washington, D.C., deal with a whole bunch of foolishness. And then either Thursday night or Friday, you're going to fly back home. And now you got to answer to your people.
Mhm.
If you're doing it right, then it's perfect. But so many people that go to DC, they start skimping out. They don't show up to work, and then when they get back, they don't wanna answer to their real boss or real people. So
Right.
that's where I'm at is if you're not gonna do the job holistically, do not be in the job. And if you're not gonna do it, Shawn Harris man enough to call you out and say, "Hey, I know you and I are on the same team, but guess what? I can't play your side of the football field in mine too."
Right.
So, if you don't wanna do the job, go back somewhere and tell them you don't wanna do the job
Right.
anymore.
Yeah. Kind of like your counterpart.
Exactly.
I should say your incumbent. Um, okay, 3. This is an interesting one for everyone. Reasserts their power over the Supreme Court.
Mhm. Yes. Right now, I would tell you our Supreme Court, it looks like it's out of control, okay? That's where it looks. Um, I was fully expecting some decisions to come out of roughly about 3, 4 weeks ago. Seemed like they kinda slowed things down a little bit
Mhm.
on how they're gonna hold Trump accountable. Um, I still personally believe that the Supreme Court is gonna do correct themselves.
Mm,
However, what I will say to your audience, this is one of those questions that I can't give you a hard answer today because guess what? I don't know all the facts.
there you go.
I don't know all the facts, and I need your audience to understand is they are looking at somebody that still carries a top secret, but top secret don't get you nothing in your basement. You gotta get there to DC, go into the skill, and get a better understanding of, hey, what is going on behind the scenes on all of these things?
Right.
That's where 'cause I think too many times we speak too fast before we know all the facts, and
Mhm.
on the Supreme Court, I think I gotta get there, sit down with them and privately and better understand where they looking at the thing. Because guess what? Shawn Harris is not a lawyer, nor do
Mhm.
I wanna be a lawyer, but I wanna make sure that the president, Congress, Supreme Court, we all supposed to be doing our jobs and holding each other accountable. It's kinda like you said, we learned that on Saturday morning from when we were little bitty kids. That's the way it's supposed to be, and right now, I don't it looks as if the Supreme Court is not holding up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, it definitely is true. I really appreciate a candidate who can say things like, I need to learn more about that. And, it's refreshing. And you're not giving me a talking point. You're literally just saying like, "Yeah, I see you. I understand your concern. Let me research more."
Mhm.
And this is definitely one of those things where there's a lot of different ways to deal with it. You have legal scholars on all ends of the spectrum who are like, "Yes, we need reform." It looks like term limits, it looks like jurisdiction stripping, it looks like a million things.
Right.
There's so many options. And so there's no magic bullet here. It's probably a combination of things. And so I really appreciate your candor and your humility, your willingness to just be like, not my level of expertise. I need to make sure that I'm in a room with people for whom it is, and we'll go from there.
Mhm.
But under like it's it's also like shows that there really is an issue when someone who isn't a lawyer is looking at it and going like, what is happening over there?
Right.
Like because it used to be like the Supreme Court just does their thing and like, whatever, and we hardly thought about it.
Right.
Amazing. Number 4, and I'll say number 4 and 5 together because they are kind of part and parcel, raises wages and reinstates corporate tax marginalization and increases tax marginalization for high net worth individuals, otherwise known as taxing the rich, but
Yeah.
also raising wages.
Yeah.
So, thoughts?
We we, um, we definitely need to make sure that 1% that's at the top, those billionaires,
Mhm.
all the billionaires, even the billionaires that look like me,
Right.
okay? If you just caught what I said, we saw a couple of them on TV the other night, and we're
Mhm.
gonna see a couple of them at the Super Bowl this coming weekend. So all billionaires need to actually pay their fair share, actually even more, because the 1% that's at the bottom, the poorest people in America, actually pay more taxes than everybody else. And then on the immigration side, somebody that potentially is here illegally or whatever you want to say, they actually still pay into our tax program. To
Mhm.
be honest with you, I think when Donald Trump kicks everybody out of this country, regardless of how he's trying to damn do it, we may find out that our social security system will crumble because we don't actually have enough people paying into it. But that's a whole different subject. What I plan to do when I get to DC is help work on reform that top percentage pay their fair share, and we take care of the middle class and our underprivileged and our seniors, because I think right now we got things upside down. And I'll just say it plain. Retiring as a brigadier general, my wife is a physician. Donald Trump's big beautiful bill,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, hell, he got some tax stuff in there that's gonna help us out,
Mhm.
flat out. So I wanna make sure that when we go back and look at everything, somebody takes in consideration it's okay to have a lot of money in the United States. That's the American dream.
Mhm.
You need to pay your fair share so that people that's at the bottom, a guy that's working at McDonald's and damn Dollar General, 2 different jobs, shouldn't have to pay more taxes than somebody who's, a owner of the NFL football team
Right.
this weekend.
Yeah. Amazing. Could not agree more. Will not even elaborate because you've said it perfectly. All right, number 6, bans stock buybacks.
Yes. Yeah. It's simple. When I get to Congress, I wanna put a proposal together that says, if you're in Congress, you can't buy any stocks. Point blank. It is some individuals right now got it on the table. I don't think it's gonna pass. That's why it's so important to get me there so that we can get these type things done. Prime example, I told you I was in the military. in as you get to a certain level in the military, you can't just like in Congress, you can't be out there buying stocks and all those kind of things. All that stuff gotta be in a blind trust.
Correct.
Not
Yes.
and that's how my wife and I have always functioned. I don't wake up in the morning trying to figure out if I made $10 or $100,000. That's the way I'm gonna be. That's where I am today. That's where I'm gonna be when I get to DC, and I wanna put policy in place to ensure that everybody's in the same thing because guess what? The lady that I'm gonna replace, Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Mm,
she talks about Nancy Pelosi all the time. Go check the receipts.
mhm.
Marjorie Taylor Greene in 5 years made $23 million. She's actually made more money in 5 years than Nancy has ever made in her entire time being up there. So and, oh, by the way, Margie quit on us and walked out the door and got $23 million, plus she got retirement the rest of her life, plus she got the best damn health care that money can doggone buy the rest of her life. She hit the lottery.
Sure. Yeah, no, I definitely think that any market reforms have to include something about, keeping Congress out of the markets like that because you can't you can't do the other reforms that are needed, like stopping corporations from buying back their own stocks or whatever, if you're invested in that, right? Like if hey, Nvidia wants to do $1 billion buyback and inflate the earnings per share. I'm invested in Nvidia, so I don't really want to push any laws that would stop that, and
And
that it really is the nexus of
Kate,
all of.
I will tell you, this issue is on both sides of the aisle.
Yes.
I mean, in order for me to be talking to you tonight, I had to do my own little federal, how much money I had made, where my money's at, the whole thing. I forgot what it's called. Financial disclosure.
Yes.
You start looking at across the board, there's a whole bunch of people for whatever reason, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, when they get to DC, they seem to get a lot more money than what the salary is paying.
Yep.
Okay? So this is an issue that hits both ways. We have to look in the mirror and tell the truth and say, okay, Congress, all of us as a whole, we have to police ourselves. And that's why I think I got to get there because I'm one of the people that says I want to hold us all accountable because right now, um, we could be freezing America. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. All right, number 7, invest in a robust, nimble, and strategic administrative state.
You know, when you say that, the first thing clicked in my mind was Elon Musk of all of his foolishness and whatnot. I will tell you, when I get to DC, I wanna make sure that we're spending the American people's money the right way. I wanna make sure that is we cut waste. And now this is the part that Republicans like about me. Right now, our grandkids. So I done skipped all of it, just your grandkids, and I'm down to the next generation that's not even here. They will be paying the debt for us.
Right.
So part of my whole answer to your group is not only just addressing on the front end, but I will be joining others to say, how do we bring down the overall debt? Because right now, under this administration, to be Republicans, they are completely out of control because, as we all know, tariffs is a tax on us. And I don't know how President Trump supposed to be trying to rebuild the Kennedy Center and pay for all this stuff. That stuff is gonna make our debt load go up. So you gotta get somebody that's gonna call it out and put some things in place.
Love it. Yeah, I when I was covering the big beautiful bill last summer, I told people constantly, like, if you're a fiscal like responsibility person, this ain't the party for you. I don't know what the party of fiscal responsibility is, but they seem to have left the building. So it's
Yes.
hog wild. Number 8, advances universal health care and education.
No doubt. Like I mentioned, my wife is in education, I mean, in healthcare. What
Mhm.
m don't know about me, in my younger years when I had hair, I was a teacher, middle school teacher. That's probably why I don't have hair, and then I went on and became a principal. So so these are 2 areas that I'm very passionate about. One, um the Trump administration is destroying the education department. I'm concerned on that on so many levels, but I'll just talk 2 quick levels. One, when we talk about our kids that have special needs, um, they have already destroyed that, and we're starting to see those repercussions inside of our schools across the board, where you don't have that additional person to help the teacher in any kind of capacity,
Right.
and that's even the gifted kids. On top of that, I wanna make sure that when we talk healthcare, here in my district, like I mentioned in the opening, we have the hospitals, but we don't actually have the doctors inside of them. If you go and dig into this big, beautiful bill, they got a piece in it that talks about that, but it's designed to recruit them. Is no money in there to pay them.
Right.
So so it's important to actually read bills, and like Marjorie Taylor Greene said so eloquently, she didn't read the bill, she just went on and voted for it.
Right.
So when it comes to healthcare, I believe nobody in America should ever lose their house, lose everything they ever had simply because they got sick and had to go to the hospital.
Amen.
And on the flip side of the coin, if you dummy down your people, and I've
Mhm.
seen this all over the world. If you dummy down your people, then you're going from not being a democracy to being a dictatorship. So put that in your little cup of coffee, drink it, let that settle in, because I am worried that the issue is actually bigger than what you and I are talking about. I think we on a very strategic thing that's looking over the horizon. Over the horizon actually means 30 some years from now.
Right.
What so if we destroy our education system, then um it won't be an issue of can your kid, do math or not. It'll be a question is, can they do anything?
Right. Can they think for themselves?
Can
Can
they
they
think for themselves? Or
yeah, and you're like, you hit the nail on the head. Authoritarianism requires you to not be able to, like, critically think. Like, it cowers in the face of, individuals who can, push back on nonsense and
we
whatnot.
we
Um
on a we on a slippery slope of, and I say this all the time to both sides. If your talking points If your talking points are something that I heard or you heard at 7:30 in the morning on either Fox or CNN, I don't care which side, if at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that's your talking points, then somebody has got in your head. You're not thinking for yourself anymore. You just regurgitating whatever somebody told you to say.
Right. Yeah. 1000%. All right, we're on the last one. And I am very interested in your take on this
Okay?
as a veteran. Commits to multilateral, non-interventionist foreign policy.
Yeah, yeah, I mentioned to your audience that my last assignment was Israel. I'm proud of that. You can be hand selected to do that job because, as you know, the Middle East is a very complex place. Um,
Right.
what I will say is this: um, I believe when I get to Congress, based on my background, I'm going to be doing something dealing in foreign policy, depending on how they want to put me. And the other piece I would tell your audience is basically everybody that's actually in Congress right now, I have briefed them as General Harris when they came over to the Middle East. So they know me from that capacity.
Right.
What I will say is from a foreign policy point of view, we need to make sure that it's balanced and fair. We need to make sure it's in the interest of the United States, but we also need to make sure that we are the example. Because right now, we are not the example. And right
Right.
now, when we are um, not holding up our bargain with NATO and our friends, it is very hard for us. Let me just back up a second. Our military is a global force. But in order for us to be a global force, we have partners and friends all around the world that are regional forces. When we break those alliances and relationships, like trying to take a place called Greenland, um, that makes us weak. And I'll just say it plain. The United States has been blessed to be the United States, and here in a few days, it's gonna be 250 years. We never wanna be second because a place called Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and a few more will love to thump us. And what I mean by thump us, if you think 9/11 hurt,
Yeah.
it will hurt. That's not trying to scare anybody. I'm not saying that we need to the one thing I will clearly say, spending time in combat zones, leading men and women in very dangerous places, and some of them didn't come back home. The last thing I wanna do as a congressman is send our soldiers, your kids, my kids. I want people to know that. I got kids still in uniform. My
Mhm.
kids to another forever war. So when I get to Congress, I will be the one openly ask the question to the leadership. What's strategic about this? How does it affect our national interest? If we get in this, how do we define winning? And then what is the end state? And then I'll throw in there because I'll be working in Congress is how much it's gonna cost us.
Yeah.
Because war is not cheap. Peace, peace is cheaper. And we need more people that's in Congress that have seen it, smelt it, and understand war because you find those individuals, they're the last ones want to send somebody else back to it because this is not TV. This is not a video game. This is for keeps. And the way I'll end with your question is this. I never want to ever see another American soldier or Marine or anybody in uniform have to die for something that
Yeah.
some politician that never wore the uniform but want to be bold on TV and send us to go do something. So that's why I think more veterans need to get to Congress because veterans, regardless what T-shirt we wear, we all know the bullshit in behind a war. Hence, you get us in a room, we will all say, time out. We can play games on the other things, but we're not gonna play games with these young people and cause a mother, a husband, a wife to have to get a knock on the door. So I don't know how I got all the way down that rabbit hole, but when it comes to our veterans, nobody has to brief me on it. I know they catching hell when it comes to mental health. I know they catching it when their spouses can't get their benefits, and I plan to make sure I'm working on all those things on a daily basis. And when we close out, I'll tell people about how I'm gonna do it.
Amazing. All right. Well, that all sounds extremely dreamy, Shawn. And so we're at the part of the interview where we talk about anything that you wanted to discuss about Georgia 14 specifically. So
Yeah.
everything we just talked about is federal policy heavy, right? Federal policy all over the place, and which is your job in Congress.
Yep.
But you're also there to represent your district. Is there
Yep.
something that you want to say to the folks in Georgia 14 who clearly have already heard from you multiple times now, but that you wanna say again about what you're gonna be prioritizing for them?
Yeah, the people here in Georgia on the 14th hear from me every day. They even talk to me when I'm walking around Walmart. They know I'm gonna fight for them. They are my number one focus, period.
Right.
I love to say I work for the hardworking people here in Northwest Georgia. I don't work for anybody else. I want to make sure that I'm bringing generational jobs here, that they don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs. I'm going to make sure that we stop being a healthcare desert and we're going to get some doctors in here and we're going to make sure that we get some mental health services in here because our farmers and our veterans are actually killing themselves. And guess what? We don't have any help. The other piece I always tell them is this. Shawn Harris is gonna work every day to bring down overall costs because we can feel Donald Trump says is a made up word. Donald Trump has never been to the damn grocery store. So at the end of the day, Shawn Harris, somebody that used to be on Snap as a kid, I'm blessed. But I remember getting my little juice and apple for my little Snap stuff. So at the end of the day, My goal is to fight for them. And then when it's all said and done, I want them to be able to say this, because inside baseball here in Northwest Georgia, everybody knew when they went on vacation, they was embarrassed to say where they were from. It didn't make a difference if you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, because they would say, "You from that place, that Marjorie Taylor Greene's place?" I want them to be proud to say
Yeah.
that they're from Northwest Georgia, and General Harris is my representative, and that guy's looking out for me, and I'm proud to say he is the one that's sitting up there and making the hard decisions for us and focused on us.
Amen. I wish I was in Georgia 14. I'm in
Alright.
I'm in Virginia, and I have a very good representative, so I'm not complaining too much. But,
Yep,
but I feel just like you clearly are like, "This is my community," and you are embedded in it. It's not a show, and it's not a game.
yep,
I everything that you were just mentioning in the last point about foreign policy and just now, like, you are clearly able to be like, this is joyful and a competition, and it's not a game. Those are not the same thing, right? Like,
right.
you're ready to fight hard, and understanding like what the stakes are. And I just we could go on and on. I feel like you and I could talk for probably another hour. But I do need to let you go, as people might realize I have a double header tonight, so there will be
Yep,
another interview right after this. But as I said, there's homework time, so we're in the homework time portion. Shawn, where can people find you? What do you need from anyone who's in or out of district to help
yep,
with your race? And are also your election dates. So you're in a jungle primary, which jungle primary, for anyone who doesn't know, means everybody's in the pot.
yep,
There's no Democratic primary, Republican primary, or whatever. Everybody goes together, and then the two top run off at the end of or at on November 3rd at the general election.
yep.
So go
So
ahead,
here
Shawn.
we go, just for the days. Early voting starts on February 16th, so just in a few more days. The election day is March 10th. What I will tell everybody in your audience, the way we're running our campaign, we are gonna win it on March 10th with 50 plus 1 and win it flat out. Now, some people may say the math is not there, all those kind of things. Guess what? You're talking to led people in combat. We all came home. So don't tell me what we can't do if we don't all work together.
Yeah.
So what I ask your audience to do for me, first of all, pray for me and the entire team, because this is not easy. People are punching and punching hard. The other piece is go to our website, that's ShawnForGeorgia.com. Go down there to the bottom. You'll see where you can sign up as a volunteer. You can make phone calls from wherever in the United States. You can send postcards. You can, if you in our area, come on out and help us knock on doors. And then if you have the means, send us a couple of dollars. I don't want anybody to go broke, because guess what? Affordability is equal across the nation. Okay. But what I will say is this: just the other day on Meet the Press, the Speaker of the House said that he has a 1 seat advantage. Guess what? That seat is actually empty.
Mhm.
This race, this one, we win this one, we just flip the house. So I ask everybody out there, please get in behind my race. Let's push through. And guess what? When we win this thing, I want to be transparent with everybody. When we win this thing in March, we then go to Washington, D.C. I have to turn right back again and register again to run in the primary. And then I have to turn back around again and run in November. So
Yep.
if you understand Senator Warnoff and what he had to go through, Shawn Harris is doing the same thing just at the House level. So we did it one time for the senator. I ask all of you to help me get there. And then when I get there, same thing I say in the district, I say to all your audience, hold me accountable. Hold me accountable. And because I'm in the leadership business, it says right on my thing, leadership matters.
Yep.
I will never get mad with you for asking me a question, because guess what? You have always paid my salary. My entire life, you have always been my boss, so I'm used to it. Please, American people. Ask me the hard question, and make me explain to you how we got to this decision and why we made the decision. You don't have to like it, but I will always be transparent with you. So I just say to your audience, thank you. I want to say thank you to you and the great show that you put on. Um, I I had fun tonight. I
Good.
this was pretty cool. I
I'm
I
so
I like the fact of just having a conversation
yeah,
versus, okay, these are the normal things we talked about. So
right.
I thank you for that. And if anytime you want me to come back, the answer is yes.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna have to have you back when it's time to re-primary and rerun. But you guys heard him. Now we need to flip this seat, and if we do, we've actually flipped the house before the midterms, which is insane, by the way, everybody. Like, that is so much better than we thought we were gonna be at, I think even a couple of months ago.
Yes.
So, Shawn Brigadier General Harris, thank you so much for being the candidate of our dreams. I will be pushing this out to everybody on the email list, and we'll get links and everything for everything you just talked about. And we're going to get you to win this jungle primary. And everyone else, I will see you in just a couple of minutes with our next candidate. But otherwise, be well, get to work. We have homework to do. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good one. Good night.